Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about how to acquire dual citizenship and how to prepare yourself to move abroad to a different country. I'm going to talk about some of the documents you're probably going to need when you seek out dual citizenship in another country. I'm also going to be talking about the things that you need to do to prepare yourself for this move. Before you figure out why should you move abroad, whether if you're doing it in a place that's familiar to you or a place that's totally foreign to you and you have no idea what that place is like, you have no family there, so on and so forth. I'm going to talk about the reasons why I decided to move to Antigua specifically. I've always wanted a pretty much laid back and easygoing lifestyle. I've always been like a hardworking girl. You know, if you need anything done, like I'm the first person that you'll call. I do the extra research to get it done. Like that's just the type of person I am to the core. Leaving Oregon has taught me that life is short and that you should go for the life and the dream that you have always dreamt of. When I graduated college in 2022, I was fortunate enough to get through college without a student loan bill. Kudos to the company who paid my entire student loan bill for the last 4 years when I was in undergrad. I was able to get a job with that company, luckily for me, and I think that that was a testament to the hard work and dedication that I have been putting in over the years and the networking that I have been doing over the time that I've been in school. After I received my offer, I signed the dotted line and I made my commitment and my move to Oregon. So I moved from Philadelphia 2,000 miles away from everything that I've known or, you know, everything that I've seen for basically my entire life. And I decided to go to Portland, Oregon. I was there for about a year. My contract essentially was a 1-year commitment. I ended up leaving Nike. I did leave with something for sure. I'm gonna insert this.
So now we're leaving. I'm leaving without the Oscar, right? But as I'm leaving, I see the back of where they're doing the getting the meal ready, the food ready for the governor's ball. I see a big tray. I'm like, I'm leaving here with something. You know what I mean? I'm from around the way. I'm leaving with something.
Luckily for me, I didn't leave my job with any resources though. I was fortunate enough to leave my job with a hefty severance package, and I invested about a small percentage, which was about 10,000 of those dollars, into a high yield savings account, and then about 5,000 of those dollars into my Fidelity investment account, where I invest into stocks and bonds and a bunch of ETFs and so on and so forth. So I can say that gratefully for me, I was okay in the financial department and I didn't really have too much to worry about. So this goes into why I thought that it would be best for me to move abroad. I think for me, being an undergrad, I was a totally different person. I think I did succumb to a lot of mentalities and mindsets that were holding me back. And when I moved to Oregon, it kind of like opened up my mind. Like literally the entire experience busted me over the head. And I had to take a moment and realize how privileged I actually really was and how much opportunity I actually really had. And that gave me the crazy idea to say, people go their entire lives trying to figure out what their purpose is, what they're gonna do in this life, and all of those things. And I didn't even realize that like my purpose and my passion was literally right in front of me. I also didn't even realize how much wealth and abundance I really had, you know? I think as in, you know, a daughter to an immigrant, there's this narrative that, you know, we were poor and we didn't have much. But come to find out, we actually did have like a lot of resources. We had access to land and we had access to homes that we're not attached to any mortgages. So I think my move to Antigua is really just a journey to financial freedom and trying to live out the lifestyle that I essentially wanted for myself all along. So the first reason I said Antigua is because, number one, it was the burnout from the city lifestyle. I think that being on an island, it gives you a sense of serenity, a sense of peace. I think that you can easily find your peace in your home living in the city, but I think it's just different when the environment around you matches the vibe of living an actual slow and soft lifestyle. I literally live right down the street from a beach. I'm able to go to Hodges Bay all the time, and all of the other beaches are probably about like 15-20 minutes island time, so essentially it's not that far. I would say Philadelphia, very rough and rugged city. Portland, even worse. They have a homeless and drug problem. So even though I was living in my luxury apartment, I walked out of my luxury apartment and I saw a bunch of homeless tents and homeless camps. And that kind of did something to my soul, and I just wasn't happy where I was. So I think that living in Antigua has probably been the best decision that I have made for myself, just in terms of quality of life. The quality of life is so much better. If you think about it, it all kind of worked out for me. I always wanted a house like in a very secluded type of area. I mean, of course I want neighbors, but I wanted land as well. So I think when I thought about where I wanted to be in terms of my dream home, I thought Antigua was the perfect place. The quality of life is amazing. The scenery is amazing, and also just in terms of community, I have a really large community. I have friends and I have family. I have a really great support system. So when it comes to raising a family or having a future family, I thought it would be the perfect place. Also, there's so many things to do there. There's beach days, there's parties, there's amazing restaurants, there's a lot of nature-esque activities to do. Being on an island definitely gives you the best of both worlds. You still get that really soft and slow lifestyle with the hustle and bustle of a city mixed into one. And I also think that just in terms of the economy and the way that people navigate everyday life, I think that the cost of living is, of course, significantly a lot lower than trying to make it in a big city. I mean, let's be for real. Your entire paycheck from your job is going towards rent, and I didn't see myself as being a renter. I wanted something a little bit more permanent, and that's why I am buying land first, because I'm giving myself 2 years to pay off the land. I expect to pay off the land by 2027. I would love to start building on the land in 2027 when I'm done paying it off, so that, you know, my home is built at least a year after I'm done. So I think that that was something that really interests me about investing back into my home country where my family is from, because I think that it would just be a lot better than, you know, trying to buy a home in America and trying to keep up with the demands and how the economy works here in America. I think for me, rich is not necessarily a dollar amount, but I do think that being rich is a mindset, it's a lifestyle, it's an aura. I think being rich is deeper than just how many zeros you have in your bank account, because I'm gonna be honest with you, there's some people who make $100,000 a year and they're still living paycheck to paycheck, and they're still, you know, living broke, and they still feel broke because of different, you know, factors. We're not even gonna get into that, but you know what I mean. It's like you don't have to have much to get by in this life if you do it right and if you're responsible with your money. And moving to the island will be one of those things that will be the defining factor for a rich and lavish lifestyle. You're able to grow things that you're not able to grow in America in your backyard. You're able to eat fresh papayas, fresh mangoes, fresh soursop, fresh sugarcane, oranges, like any fruit that you can think of. You're able to grow yards of fresh mint in your backyard, spinach, okra. Like, these are things that you just can't do in America, and these are things that I feel like makes you rich. Okay, so let's first get into our first talking point. What is dual citizenship? Dual citizenship is exactly what it sounds like, multiple citizenships. So multiple citizenship, also known as dual nationality, occurs when a person is legally recognized as a citizen of more than one country simultaneously. So that means that the same business that you're able to do in America, if you're a dual citizen in another country, you're able to conduct business in that other country legally the same way how you have the birthright to do business in the country that you were born. All countries don't allow dual citizenship, so if you are an American or, you know, whatever your nationality is, I think that you should do the extra research to see if your home country allows you to be a dual citizen in another country, because I do know that there are some situations where if you are a citizen of the country that you were born in, if you do seek out citizenship in another country, that means that you have to denounce or renounce your citizenship in the country where you were born. But luckily for the United States and Antigua, they both equally recognize citizenship, dual citizenship, and there shouldn't be any problems to having both at the same time. I also want to talk about the benefits of having two passports. So, number one, the American passport is a very strong passport. We're not gonna throw shade on the United States. But I also think that having an overseas passport is actually a little bit more valuable in terms of the amount of money that you would have to pay to get into certain countries visa free. So I think that having an Antigua passport lessens the financial obligation for you to travel. So if it's your dream and your goal to travel to different places in the world, having another or a second passport gives you the ability to travel to more than one country visa free. I know specifically for my country, Antigua and Barbuda, we have access to over 150 countries visa free. That also includes the EU and Africa and other countries around the world. So I think that that is another reason why I wanted to get my second passport, because I've always wanted to travel, and the two places that are on my bucket list that I have planned for this year and next year is Santorini, Greece, and Spain. And I also want to go to Zanzibar. So like I said, these are places that I can travel 100% visa free upon arrival. Do you know it or not, I think having a second passport also, in short, gives you the ability to have a second home in a stable country. People unfortunately come to America to seek asylum because the places that they live are unstable. And I can say for Antigua, our country is pretty stable, and I would love to be able to go back to a place and call it home. It's always nice to leave your country and see something different. That's what my parents did. They, came to this country and they wanted to seek a better life, and they needed to, reap some of the benefits that being in America comes with. But I do think that there is a time to come back home, whether if it's permanently or temporarily, but it is good to, have established yourself in one country but be stable enough to go back to your home country. So another reason why I am getting a second passport is because I can call Antigua my second home. Business and tax incentives. One of the biggest things that I keep in mind is, how do I help the country that I'm in? We all are contributing to the economy in one way, shape, or form or another. And I think that me being a part of the community, the Caribbean community, means that I would love to see my country thrive and flourish. I think that establishing a business in your home country is definitely something that is needed, not only for yourself, but for the economy. You never know if you have something, that you can bring to another place that can either advance that country in so many different ways. For example, down the street where I live in Antigua, there is a, luxury spa. They do everything from acrylic nails to lash extensions to facials to massages. Like, it's literally like you're living in America. And I can say that, the young lady who owns that place, she's very established and she's worked hard and she's been doing it for a couple of years. But this lady was born and raised in the Caribbean. So you got to understand, like, how the country is developing over time. Even, in Antigua, everything is very much cash, cash, cash. Every day, every week, every second, you need to go to the bank to be able to take out money to conduct, transactions. But now there are more businesses who have access to card machines and card readers, and it's making doing business on the island a lot easier and things are more accessible. So I don't think that, Antigua will be super commercialized, because at the end of the day, Western values are in fact Western values. But I feel as though that, we are continuously advancing as a nation. And that is just something that you got to keep in mind when you go to another country. How are you adding value to the place where you live? So how am I getting my citizenship? My process is going to be a lot different from someone who doesn't have any blood relatives who were born and raised on the island. For others, their process might look a little different. So for example, if you are an American citizen and you have no blood relations, no blood ties to the island, so meaning your mother or your grandfather or your grandmother or your dad, if none of those people were born there, then your process to gaining citizenship will be a lot different from me. Citizenship through descent versus by investment. The Citizenship by Investment program is a lot different. I might be able to make a separate video on that, but essentially how it goes is you would need to invest at least $200,000 or more as a donation directly to the government, or you would need to have that much money in real estate. So you would need to buy at least $200,000 or more in real estate and go through that entire separate process to become a citizen of Antigua and Barbuda. So this is kind of what my process looks like. So the requirements for your application for citizenship, there's two ways. So like I said, there is citizenship by descent, then there is marriage, which both of those kind of like go in the same category, but by descent, it's a little bit quicker than by marriage. And then the third way is by what I said before, the Citizenship by Investment program. Applicants can apply via descent through a parent or a grandparent. Applicants attempting to obtain citizenship via marriage must be married to a national of Antigua and Barbuda for at least 3 years or more, and they have to provide proof of their marriage, that their marriage is in fact intact, meaning that you guys have to be in a legal binding marriage on paper, okay? Then it says persons can apply for citizenship if they've been a resident in Antigua and Barbuda for 7 continuous years and can prove so. But that process is a little tricky because, you know, in order to live in a country legally, you have to have some type of documentation. That means that you have to either have had a job, you know, that means that the country has to sponsor your work visa. So technically, in my opinion, there's only 3 solid ways that you can become a citizen: by descent, by marriage, and by investment. If you are a child born abroad, meaning that if you were me, who was born in the United States, if you were born after October 31st, 1981, which in 1981, that's basically when Antigua became an independent country away from the EU, you have to have at least one parent who is a citizen of the country. So again, like I said, if I have a mother or a father or both, one of my parents needs to be a citizen of Antigua. If it's my grandparents, so for example, if I was someone who was born in America, but my parents both were born in America, but my grandparents were born on the island, I can still then be a dual citizen. But luckily for me, my mother was born on the island, and so were both of my grandparents. So I could do either process. I could do it through my parents, or I can do it through my grandparents. My process was pretty simple. I received an application. It would be Form L, basically on the consulate's website, or you can take a trip to Antigua and fill out the application and submit it to their passport office. But the documents that you would need for this process to process through is you would need an application form, you would need a copy of your birth certificate, a copy of your parents' or grandparents' birth certificate, and then you would need a form of ID. You would need to obviously pay the fee. The fee was like over $100 and something. So if you're doing it in Antigua, you basically have to go to the post office and receive a stamp, and you take that stamp of $100 and you submit it with your application and you give it to the passport office. Now, if you're in America completing this process, you would basically need a money order of how much the passport is going to cost, and you would submit that fee with all of your documentation, like the copy of your birth certificate, the copy of your parents' birth certificate from their homeland, and then a copy or a form of ID in your payment. And you would put all of that in one nice little folder, and you would travel to the New York City consulate and you would give it to them. They would then process your application, and then boom, you have a passport. So I think it's pretty simple. I would say that this is something that I felt as though that I should have done when I was 16, because you have the ability to receive your passport when you're 16 if you're doing it on your own. But, you know, of course you're able to get it done a lot earlier if your parent is able to do it. But this is something that I could have done on my own when I was 16 years old. But now I'm doing it. Now is all that matters. And I'm so happy that I'm able to get a second passport, because one, I'm going to be able to establish myself in another country other than America. So now that you have your passport, what do you even do? So your passport is basically your starting form of ID. You can do whatever you want with it now. So I think the first thing that you should do when you establish yourself in another country is research the banking options. I think that having a bank account solidified is going to take you a long way no matter where you are, because you have a safe place to put your money. And if you are making US dollars, of course, your US dollars are going to go a lot further, and having a safe place to put a percentage of your money into a foreign bank account is something that is probably really, really smart to do. So do your research about what banking systems are in the country that you want to move to. There's going to be several banking institutions in Antigua, but I'm going to tell you the one that I have. So there's Caribbean Union Bank, which is a credit union. And then you have CIBC, which is the first Caribbean International Bank. And then you have ACB. And then you have Eastern Caribbean Gosh, we're just going to call it ECAB because I can't say the word augmented, but yes, ECAB. That is the bank that I essentially went for. And then there's First Caribbean International, Global Bank of Commerce, and I probably said ACB already. But you pick the bank that is best for you. There's no one size fit all solution to trying to figure out which bank you want. You just pick the bank that you're most comfortable with. Me, I was most comfortable with ECAB. So to open an ECAB account, of course, you're going to need your passport because it's a form of ID. And then you're going to need your social security number, so you can use your US social security number. And then you just need like a banking letter. I'm not gonna go over the process as a non-national because now that you have your second passport, you're obviously a national now. So these are the things that you're gonna need. You're going to need your social security number. You're going to need a photo ID, which is going to be your passport. You need to have proof of address, like anywhere in the world, right? You can't just go somewhere and not have anywhere to live. And then you're going to need a bank reference. So that's just going to be a letter from your American bank, basically saying that you have a bank in your home country and you're opening another bank in another place. And then you're going to need confirmation of funds. So if you have a job, you have to submit that, you know, you are working, or submit a job letter. But you have to have basically proof of income so that they know like where you're getting the money from to deposit it into your bank account. So that can be your job, or that can be, you know, your own business. Wherever you get your money from, you basically just need verification to say that, you know, you're opening a new bank account. If you're someone trying to find rental properties in Antigua, there is JMVI. They're a real estate company based here. They're really good. They're the ones who are helping me in this process when it comes to finding land on the island, but they also offer short-term and long-term rental options. But do your research, of course, on the type of housing options they have in the place where you're trying to live. Because if you have a family that is well established on the island already, then obviously, you know, they can probably rent you out a place for a lot cheaper than what you would pay for if you were to rent from someone that you didn't know, of course, right? But I would say that rent prices do go up to $1,800. You would be paying the same amount of money technically, but you would get a lot more space. And like I said, the quality of life is a lot better, and there are a lot more things to do on the island. So I do feel like you get, you know, bang for your buck, and it's definitely worth the price if you're someone who wants to pay $1,800 for rent. If that's your forte, then do what you have to do, you know? When it comes to groceries, I can say that affording food on the island is fairly affordable. It depends on where you go and shop. There's different ways that you can, you know, get produce. You can either support local businesses, you can support local vendors in town for fruits and vegetables and fish and lobster, whatever you want to eat, you can definitely support a local. If you want to shop in a grocery store, there's First Choice and then there's Epicurean Supermarket. You can either go to those two shops. Those are the, supermarkets that are closer to where I would be living in Antigua. But there are so many different places that you can go for produce. That's why I said, like, it's better to receive your produce at the source versus, yeah. And then let's talk about shopping and luxury goods. So you would think that it would be hard to get all of the things that you would normally buy in America and Antigua, but I would say as a dual citizen, you can do whatever you please. You can either stay in Antigua and, buy the imported goods that are coming onto the island, or you can take a trip back home and buy the stuff in America and take it back with you. Those are options. But when it comes to shopping, there are established boutiques on the island who import, different clothes from Fashion Nova, from Shein, like all of your favorite places that you love to shop. They have the same clothes that you would be able to buy in America. There are no big major malls. So if you're looking for example, for the people who live in Pennsylvania, if you're looking for a King of Prussia mall, you're not going to find a King of Prussia mall. You're just not going to find it. But if you do like to shop secondhand or thrift shops, or like I said, boutiques, Antigua has all of that for you, and you're still going to look good and you're still going to look styled and your outfits are still going to look put together. So there's no need to worry about that. When it comes to perfumes and fragrances and jewelry, you're going to find everything that you need, from Versace to Burberry to YSL. Like, all of these major brands you're going to be able to find. I think that Heritage Quay is one of the main points where you can buy jewelry and buy like different perfumes from, but that is like my main recommendation when it comes to buying luxury goods on the island. I think the point of moving to a different country is to change your perspective and to change how you conduct your everyday life. The point is to expand your mind and to live a different lifestyle than what you have been living before. And I think that being in Antigua is something that has made me also not spend as much money as I want to spend, because I'm meeting my goals. Like I said, I have to pay off my land and I'm going to be building a house soon. I would rather be in a house that I built from scratch in a nice beachy secluded area. Safety, like any other country or just any place that you live, there's going to be crime. But I can say that Antigua is one of the safer islands, so we don't have a lot of issues and problems. There have been, issues of missing person cases coming up recently in the news, but I can say that in general, people are very friendly, people are very helpful, and if you need things, there are people to show you your way around. If you're new, it's not necessarily a place where people are mean and very ignorant. I would say that they're very welcoming, and maybe the sun is maybe the sun is the reason why everybody's happy. But anyway, I would say definitely still take precaution like any other place that you live. Don't, leave your bags unattended. Don't trust everyone that you come in contact with. Use your discernment. I would say you should use your discernment anywhere that you go. Doesn't matter if you're, in the United States or, you're in Mexico, it doesn't matter where you are. Make sure that you use discernment, okay? Because people are crazy and you don't want to end up a victim, okay? But it's also not one of those places where, like, if you take your phone out and you record something, someone's gonna come up to you and snatch your phone. It's not like that, but I would definitely say still use discernment. Weather. Okay, so the weather is fairly nice all the time. I can say that it's usually sunny. It gets really, really hot, and then simply it just rains. There are hurricanes that happen during hurricane season, but people usually know when these hurricanes are coming. So if you're someone who doesn't necessarily want to experience a traumatic, experience like that, then you should take precautions to relocate during hurricane season when, hurricanes come. I don't believe that we've had any tsunamis or any natural disasters other than hurricanes. But like I said, if you do not want to be in the path of what, a hurricane emergency is like, then I would suggest you to get off of the island so you won't be traumatized by the experience. Because there are times where the hurricanes are very light and power might be out for days. If you're someone who doesn't know how to, navigate that, space, then you should definitely get off the island. Your power is going to be out for days. You're going to have to light candles, or you're going to have generators ready, when the power goes out. But other than that, in terms of like hurricanes, it can range from, like I said, very mild to worse. Like, it can go from raining very hard to the roof coming off of your house. So, yeah, just use discernment when it comes to hurricane season. Okay, so how do you prepare for moving to another country? So obviously, depending on how many things you have, if you're a light packer and all you want to do is, bring your clothes, I would suggest you paying for the luggage. When your luggage is a little bit too heavy, they're going to charge you, a couple dollars extra for them to put it on the plane. If you're someone who has like furniture, you want to move, beds, you want to move dressers, you want to move TVs, like you want to ship your car, I would opt into getting a 20-foot container and researching shipping companies that ship to the destination that you're trying to move. I would also save up $5,000 to $10,000 to conduct that move, because depending on how many things that you have, of course your moving fees and your expenses are going to be super duper expensive, or they're going to be super duper inexpensive. It depends on the things that you're trying to do. But if you're trying to move furniture, more than likely you're going to have to opt in for like a shipping company. I can recommend Besco's, but they ship out of Pennsylvania, but the major port where people ship items from is Miami. So you're probably going to have to find a shipping company in Miami to ship your items from Miami to the Caribbean, because that's a major shipping point for the Caribbean islands. In general, this process has been exciting. I wouldn't even say it's daunting. There's nothing daunting of it. I think that this is just true freedom, and I have complete autonomy over what I choose for my life. And I think that that is the best feeling ever. The fact that you can just get up and go and do the things that you always dreamed of, I think that that's something very beautiful. And even if you are, not necessarily in a position where you can get up and move, I think that you should still find a way to do it. Why? Because at the end of the day, I feel like living your life to the fullest extent is something that you would never get back. And even if you have children, or even if you're married, I think that these are conversations that you should have with your spouse, or conversations that you should have with yourself, and make that move so that you can better not only your life, but your family's life, your children, You know, like, this is just something that, like, you would never be able to do in a lifetime if you don't do it now. So thank you for watching my video, and I hope that you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we just gonna get into the journey.